Thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Sonneveld and I'm one of the co-founders and product owner here at Merchant Spring. Welcome to this next session as part of our introductory training. This session will focus specifically on Amazon Vendor and how to navigate through the reports under My Channels. If you've already watched the session that focuses on sellers or 3P channels, then some of the things will be familiar to you. However, due to the differences in nature of the beast, we do want to talk specifically about vendors and some of the reports that are available for vendors. So let's dig right in. So I'll start at the dashboard, but of course we are now navigating through to the My Channel section. And for the purposes of this session, I'm not going to select a seller store. I'm going to select a vendor store. Now, slightly deliberate here, as you can see, the interface looks similar. Okay, so it has a vendor overview section here and a series of reports on the left-hand side. That's by design. What we really tried hard here at Merchant Spring is to help you save time. And one of the ways we help you save time is not by forcing you to relearn a completely different interface every single time. So we try and keep things as consistent as possible. Now, let's just make sure we pick a time period here where we have data. Obviously, I'm using our demo account here, looking at the last month and comparing it to the prior period. Now, because vendors work slightly differently to sellers, I think it's really important to explain the data that we are able to retrieve for an Amazon vendor. And specifically, they fall into three categories that are then summarized here on this vendor overview. But the categories are really purchase orders. So that's to sell in. That talks, and the reports and the analytics talk about the purchase orders that Amazon is placing with you or your client in the event of an agency, and how well you are doing in terms of fulfilling those orders and Amazon receipting those orders into their warehouse. Allows you to see the COGS, the purchase order values, and of course trends over time by category, by product, etc. The second part here is what Amazon calls retail analytics. Some of you may know this as sellout information, and we'll go through that in a second. But that all talks about what's happening between the end consumer and Amazon retail. So, in terms of orders being placed, orders being shipped, and the inventory that Amazon maintains. And then last, the marketing module here. Now, that only appears if you've connected your Amazon advertising account. Most of you will have done that as part of the process of connecting your vendor account. And this module, which I will touch on, is identical to that of a 3P seller because it's the same platform with some very small nuances around, for example, how do we calculate TACoS? So let's dive right in and let's start with purchase orders. So purchase orders, as I said before, is sell-in information. We have here, we start with a total view around purchase orders, which will give you the trend, the purchase orders that Amazon has been placing compared to the other period, and of course, there's all sorts of time toggles here to look at this at a very small window or a very large window. Now, typically speaking, when it comes to vendors, it does make sense to look at this at a much broader time window because, Amazon doesn't place purchase orders every single day. And what we also do here is we break down those purchase orders by different statuses. Now, we ignore any canceled orders. So orders that Amazon canceled outright, we ignore. But within that now, we capture three different types. We've shown two here, but as you can see, there's three. There are purchase orders that are new. So these are the orders that Amazon has sent to you, but you've not confirmed them. There are purchase orders that you've acknowledged. So you've acknowledged that you've received the purchase order. You have confirmed the units that you're going to ship, but you have not shipped it yet. It's not been receipted into Amazon's warehouse. Closed, meaning all three of those. So you've confirmed the purchase order and you've actually sent the shipment and that shipment has been receipted by Amazon. And then when we get to the actual detail, you can see individual purchase orders and all of the detail that relate to it. You can even drill down into individual SKUs to see what is the exact makeup of that order. What do we accept, what was canceled, and what was received. You can even go down into this particular metric selector and add some additional units here. So if you want to measure things like shortages or lost COGS as a result of not confirming all the units, you can see a lot more information here on confirmation rate and receipt rate, for example. The other thing that we allow you to do is we have two dates here. There's a date by which the purchase order was received, and there was a date by which it was shipped. We show both here on the table, and on the chart here, you can toggle between the two different dates simply by selecting this, sliding this, and turning this toggle on. What we then do is we take this purchase order information and we look at that in different ways. So we look at it by product, for example, here, allowing you to answer questions like, this month, which products did Amazon order more of versus less of? And you can use this versus last year to understand, okay, where are the ups and downs? Has Amazon stopped ordering a particular product, for example? And as you can see, we break this down by brands, categories, and also allow you to define custom groups. We now move to the second part, which is the sell out or retail analytics. The first thing that we start with is ordered revenue. So these are the orders that the consumers place with Amazon retail. It excludes the marketplace. It just includes the vendor side of Amazon, but it's the order going in, and all the data here is based on the day the order was placed. It gives you a great window in terms of what's the health of the underlying consumer demand for your products at a total level, including things like glance views, what's your average price, and how is all of that trending. But I think just like we saw on the seller side, the more interesting conversations happen at the ASIN level, where we can understand, okay, which products are trending up in terms of page views, which products having a great conversion rate, or perhaps below average conversion rate. It starts to provide a window into optimization, catalog optimization. Which products should we be optimizing for, say, glance views or conversion rate? Or as a manufacturer, am I comfortable with the average price that Amazon is selling my product for? That's part one. Part two talks about, we call this ship revenue, when Amazon ships orders from their warehouse to meet that consumer demand. Now, keep in mind, we actually have two views here. We have a sourcing view. So that is all about the inventory that Amazon sourced from you or your client to fulfill consumer orders. And of course, we have manufacturing view that talks about the total number of products that Amazon shipped relating to your brand. Brand may you own, but they may have sourced it from a local distributor, or in many instances, especially in Europe, from another Amazon country. And I encourage you to really check out a much more in-depth session around sourcing versus manufacturing and how both of those come together to talk about sourcing share, to give you those insights around which particular products do you not fulfill 100% of the orders, and therefore where's the opportunity to increase your COGS at a local level, but also at an export level. Very complicated topic, so please check out our intermediate module on that particular topic. Last but not least, we have inventory health. Now keep in mind that Amazon is not great at providing this data on a frequent basis. In many instances, the data is only provided using weekly snapshots and at least a couple of days after the fact, which is unfortunate. It's the same inside retail analytics though, so you're seeing the same data there as you see here. It does provide you with a good understanding of what is the inventory that Amazon's holding right now for each product, and are there any particular issues with that inventory? For example, is some of that inventory become unhealthy or unsellable or starting to age? These are all indicators that something might be amiss and may lead you to take some action to stimulate demand to try and reduce that inventory before it becomes a real issue. There are other metrics here around sell-through rate, fill rate, and vendor lead times. And it, again, provides a great lens into where can you improve your supply chain performance at an ASIN level. Last but not least, marketing. And as I said before, this module looks, smells, and feels very similar to the module inside Amazon Seller, with a couple of exceptions. Mainly how we approach the calculation of TACoS and TROAS. For the purposes of Amazon vendors, we use ordered revenue as the denominator for TACoS and TROAS. Obviously, these numbers are related. Other than that, the module works the same. So we provide you with a dashboard showing you your total advertising performance and then starting to break that down by campaign so that you can very quickly understand where are the opportunities to reduce your campaign spend and grow advertising sales at the same time. For example, we might want to look at all of our campaigns, ACoS, high to low, and then starting to really look into some of those specific campaigns and ad groups where our ACoS is running really high, in order to determine, are there particular keywords or campaign types that we should be dialing back on, or in some instances even adding those, the keywords that is, to negative lists. Similarly, of course, it's a negative. There's also a positive here, provides you with very quick insight around which keywords are really performing well, and therefore you may want to up your budget or even increase the bids that you're placing for those keywords. All of this comes together in the vendor overview, where we provide you with a very quick snapshot of what's happening across this series of menus in a summary form. So ordered revenue, shipped revenue. Now this is sourcing. We're showing just sourcing here on this particular page. Revenue by product, inventory, purchase orders, and advertising right here at the bottom. Again, just like with the seller view, and we did this slightly in reverse than the other training session, but this screen is really designed for you to quickly scroll down to identify and see where are the issues so that you can quickly formulate an action plan and prioritize your time. That brings us to the end of this particular training module that was focused on my channels for Amazon vendor stores. As part of this, you should have now at least a foundational understanding of how our purchase order analytics works, how our retail analytics works, and how we can combine that with advertising to provide you with insights to lift performance for your Amazon vendor channel. Thank you so much for watching.